Let me tell you a story. Let me paint you a picture. Let me weave you a tale. One of math, one of the world, one about stories themselves. Shall we begin? Take it away! Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I am your host, as always, Professor Prime. So, math and stories, that is the topic of this video. They are both important and they are both connected, and I want to talk about both of them. I enjoy math. I enjoy stories. I know a lot of you out there enjoy stories, but you might not enjoy math. And that is something that I want to change. Because math is everywhere and it's connected to everything. And that's why I have this ongoing series, Math in the World, which this new video is part of. And the idea is I'm talking about math and how it relates to different mediums, different subjects, different interests of mine and other people, as well as even franchises. Like I just did a few not long ago. And so continuing with that trend, that brings us to this video. I want to talk about how math and stories connect. I want to talk about how math is used from a creator standpoint with stories. I want to talk about how math is used from a consumer standpoint concerning stories. And I want to talk about like just a deeper connection on a whole. And personally, I want to have a blast with it, and I hope you do too. And I hope you have a different perspective when you exit this video. Hopefully, a positive one. So yeah, where to even begin? So, for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on books for a little bit, but I will be talking about how stories are used across different mediums too. I won't go super in depth with those, just enough to give you an overview, but I will link appropriate videos below. I.e., I did one on math and comics, I did one on math and gaming, and I have a pretty cool video that I did on creativity and logic and how they all connect. So I will be linking all those, and as well as one on math and film. So yeah, they're also in this playlist if you're watching it in a playlist. So when I think about math and stories, let's start with the book, like I said, like a book. Um, for starters, uh, so yeah, we when we think about a book, right? There's different classifications for that. You know, you could have a short story or a collection of short stories. You could have a novella. You could have a novel, and there are different classifications for that, and like what entails a novel, what entails a novella, and what counts as a short story. And for me, if I recall correctly, with all that, a lot of it is based on word count or pages. It's one of those. Please feel free to let me know uh, if you want to. But I know it's something along those lines, either word count or pages. Um, and that's one particular way, like classification. But that's not my main point, so I didn't want to focus on that for too long. Just saying, hey, it's out there. Um, and yeah, feel free to talk about that with me. But in addition to that, when you're writing a book, you want to figure out how long you want to make that book. What is the story that you're trying to tell? Is it fiction? Is it nonfiction? Um, what audience are you writing it for? And all those factor into like maybe how long you want to actually make your book. And are you doing a series? If so, how many books do you want in that series, right? So you want to have a good idea of all that, and some of it you can get very, very formula oriented, so to speak. But some of it you could be approximating as you go, and things change throughout the creative process. Um, but yeah, so that's a big thing. Like, well, how long are you making this? And when you're making it, you're talking about different segments of the story, right? Like, hey, what do I want to put in the beginning? What do I put in the middle? What do I put in the end? How do I want to tell the story? And can I get that out in the amount of pages that I want to get this out? And then, there's things to consider when you're going out there and you're publishing. whether you're going for a company or whether you're self-publishing. You want to weigh your benefits of both and the amount of money that you could potentially make. And you also want to think about that when you're pricing. And one of the things that I've mentioned in other videos, and I'll do like an official announcement because I'm comfortable with it now, but like I'm going to be making a math textbook um, down the line. And I've written other like books in the past. And my whole thing is when it comes to something like a work of fiction, it's very, very different. So with this book I'm planning, I have to consider a lot with it, right? I want to consider how long do I want to make it? How many sections do I want in each chapter? How many chapters do I want? And I also have to have like a way to formulate like where do I want to put this and where do I want to put that, right? Because my whole thing is yes, there's going to be a lot of elements that are traditional to a lot of textbooks you see out there. However, it's Professor Prime here. It's going to very much be different. So I have a lot of different things that I want to do surrounding those chapters and in between. And so mapping that out and like, well, how long do I want this section to be? How long do I want that section to be? That all gets pretty involved. And so there's like math and mapping out my math textbook. And I think that's pretty crazy. Um, but outside of that, right? Uh, I've talked about books so far, but when you're talking about story in general, you do want to consider what is your audience? How long do you want this? And that's going to vary based on your medium and the story that you're trying to tell. Because if you're dealing like with a book series, that's one thing. If you're dealing with like a franchise, like for movies, that's another thing. Same with gaming. Same with the television series. You have to see how you want to map this out, and then it gets crazy involved with all those other mediums, right? Because if I'm dealing with like TV and movies, I might have an idea about how I want to map everything out, but a lot of that is contingent on if I get to tell the story that I want to tell. And so having plans and mapping all that out is pretty crazy to me, but it's something to consider. And I know if you're doing something like comic books, for instance, it's sequential art, and you want to see like, hey, how do I want to tell this story? Am I going to make good use of my panels? You know, the space, how many is in each, on each page. Uh, and then like, am I dealing this as part of a larger franchise? And you get to map all that out, and I think that's crazy. And then like with film, like I said, it's different for different things. Like for a movie franchise, you know, you got to map out all the things that I mentioned out before. And then with the television series, you know, it's a little different, and like money gets involved in all that. And then with gaming, you know, you have the same issues of like, well, how long do I make this? You know, if you're putting out a $60 game, it's like, well, what story am I trying to tell? And then what am I trying to do in terms of like what I want to get out to that customer? Do I want to give them more bang for their buck? Do I want to give the minimal amount of effort? Am I being put on a time crunch, which happens a lot in video games, so that's something to consider. And then just like if you are dealing with live action versus animation in terms of like TV and film, and you're telling your story, there's a lot of things you got to consider that with that. So I think that's all pretty crazy to consider. But one of the big things that also gets to me is like when you're doing math, you're telling a story, you're painting a picture, you're weaving a tale. That is something that you're doing. And oftentimes in this world, we deal with data. We deal with collecting that data, analyzing that data. The data itself is telling a story, and we are adapting that story. So the question then becomes, are we going to tell a honest story? Or are we going to tell a good adaptation, an accurate one? And that's up to the individual, but the idea is like, we're telling a story, whether it be with a data set or with a problem that we're solving. We're trying to convey some sort of message, we're trying to figure something out. And I think that's pretty awesome because math is storytelling, and I don't think that we all know that. I don't think that we really all talk about it. And that's something that I do want to change too. And on a larger level, when it comes to stories and constructing them, I think about, you know, mapping everything out, writing everything down, right? And I feel like that, there's this big link with math and writing, and I've talked about that several times. And I have something on that in this playlist and a separate playlist as well. Um, but the idea is like math and writing, they are linked by logic. It's all about communication. And I think your ability as a storyteller helps you become a better mathematician, and your ability with math can help you become a better storyteller. And I think that's pretty cool. I didn't want to get this video to become too long. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to keep these sort of videos around 10 minutes, and I am a little over that mark, which is fine, because it's not a hard limit, just around that. So I guess I'll finish with this. When I think about math and storytelling, a lot of it comes to yes, mapping it out and having like a logical way to display your story, but also considering what medium that you're in, as well as how you want to divide up that story. And that's going to change for a given medium and what you want to get across. And I think that's kind of crazy to me. Like, I think that's amazing. And then on the flip side, when you're dealing with math, like I said, I think that's storytelling, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. So I hope this changed someone's perspective, or just got them thinking. And I hope you check out some other videos. That being said, Professor Prime out.